still pre-live.
Okay. Are you sure you want to start? Okay, continue. Okay, now you're live.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth training sections of SBS FY25 Second Wednesday Subcontracting Plan Training Series. We are excited to have you here today and hope that you will find this training section informative and valuable. This training series is designed for anyone who is interested in learning more about the subcontracting program. By the end of today's section, you should have a better understanding of the topic presented and the resource available to you. If this is your first time attending our event, this is a webinar series that focuses on bringing subject matter experts to present specific subcontracting program topics and provide valuable information that you can use in your job. To our repeat attendees, we want to say thank you for your continued support and participation. To those of you who are new to the program, we want to extend a warm welcome and we hope you enjoy today's training. Next slide. Oh, sorry, this slide. I'm Sophia Chow and I work as a commercial market representative or CMR in the Area 5 office located in Dallas, Fort Worth. Additionally, Ms. Stephanie Lois, who is the National Subcontracting Program Manager, will assist with today's logistic for the training. And all of us work in the government contracting, and slide 2 includes of our information. Next slide. Please note that all lines are on mute. However, you may submit questions in the Q&A box on your screen. Your question may be submitted anytime during today's section, and this question will be addressed at the end of our speaker's presentation. To make sure your question doesn't get overlooked, please ensure it is addressed to all panelists in the drop-down menu, and please ask questions only pertaining to today's presentation topic. If you are having any technical issue, please contact your organization's IT admin office for assistance. Captioning is available for this learning series. To activate, click on Captioning in your team application. For more SBA Small Business Program training and additional resource, please visit SBA's Learning Center website at www.sba.gov. Next slide, please. Next slide. Slide 4 is the program schedule for fiscal year 25. Today's training topic is Subcontracting Plan Record Keeping Requirements. Please be informed that there will be no second Wednesday SBO training in April and May. The next training section will take place on June 11, 2025, and the topic is demonstration of DSPS and Subnet. We kindly request that you reserve this day on your calendar for the coming meeting. Invitations are generated from ESSR for those who have an account and are sent out via email each month. Some of you may have received information about this training from a friend or colleague. However, if you would like to receive email notification directly from us about the training, please email our National Subcontracting Program Manager, Stephanie Lois, at stephanie.lois@sba.gov. In the subject line, please write "Add to Second Wednesday Training List," and we will make sure to add you to the distribution list. Next slide. A playlist containing past recorded webinars is available on SBA's YouTube page. The link to access the playlist is included in the email invitation you received for today's training. However, the YouTube page is currently down for maintenance, and we will inform you when it is up and running. Please note that SBA does not release the PowerPoint slide deck for the second Wednesday training sections. To refrain from introducing unnecessary administrative complexity, we do not currently provide training completion certificates or COP for this training section. Next slide. In the event that we are unable to address all of your questions posted in Q&A box, please direct your inquiry to the appropriate CMRs based on your company's location. There are two CMR, Chris Sao and Jean Spelling, located in Area 1. Chris Sao also covers Area 2 states, and Anne Matthew is the CMR for Area 3. Next slide. Currently, the CMR is vacant for Area 4. Myself is the CMR for Area 5, and Janice Niete is the CMR for Area 6. Next slide. Our speaker has graciously accepted our invitation for today's training sections. Please note that some viewers may experience a delay as the slide change on your screen. Now I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker to you, Janice Niete, CMR in Area 6 office. Janice, we appreciate that you could meet with us today, and I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Sophia. Hi, good afternoon to some of you and good morning to some others. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into the subcontracting plan record keeping requirements. Next slide, please. So this slide covers the importance of record keeping. This may seem pretty obvious to most of you, right? But why is it important? Okay, record keeping is very important because one, it includes the fact that there's a responsibility for this requirement identified in the subcontracting plans. The information that you have in your record keeping can be referenced in the remarks section of the reports that you file in ESRS, specifically the ISRs and the SSRs. The information that you keep will help justify and support the firm's good faith efforts. And finally, documentation will be requested by CMRs as part of the subcontracting program compliance review. So you see down there that 13 CFR 125.3 specifically states that the contractor must cooperate in the reviews of subcontracting plan compliance, including providing requested information and supporting documentation reflecting actual achievements and good faith efforts to meet the goals and other elements in the subcontracting plan. Next slide, please. So what are some steps to ensure that you have good record keeping? It requires that you review and understand the responsibilities identified in the subcontracting plan. How often do you review the plan? Does everybody involved understand their role in good record keeping? Making sure that you have procedures in place to carry out these responsibilities. And then finally, executing the responsibilities identified in the plan. Always remember that a compliant and successful subcontracting program requires good record keeping. Next slide, please. Now, who is responsible for good record keeping? It really involves everyone who is connected with the subcontracting program. And it's limited, but not limited. It's including, but not limited to these individuals. The SBLO, specifically the Small Business Liaison Officer, if some of you don't know the acronym, buyers, as well as individuals who do the reporting in ESRS. Everyone who is involved should understand their responsibilities. Next slide, please. So today's training will go ahead and cover just some major areas. Now, please keep in mind that, there are other areas that require record keeping, okay? But I am only going to cover these specific major areas, specifically collecting self-certifications, the if not, why not justification, efforts to locate and assist small businesses, subcontracting plan flow down provision, the summary subcontract report, the SSR, and also the role of the Small Business Liaison Officer, the SBLO. Many of these topics have already been covered in past trainings, but for this year, we've basically collectively included much of these in one training. So let's go ahead and dive right into those major areas. The first major area is collecting self-certifications. Next slide, please. And this is perhaps one of the most complicated areas for a lot of primes that I see. And there are great, many questions that come up as it relates to this particular requirement. So the first question is, when do you collect these representations and certifications, otherwise known as reps and certs? So subcontracts counted in the small business and socioeconomic categories must have supporting self-certifications, okay? And those are the regs that cover that requirement. So the subcontractor represents that the size and social economic status representations with its offer are current, accurate, and complete as of the date of the offer for the subcontract. So this is a reminder that annual certifications do not meet this requirement. And third-party certification services often do not meet the requirements. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no value to obtaining these services from third-party certification providers. It's just that what they provide are not adequate to go ahead and meet this requirement. If you have further, questions or want to, need further details, I also recommend that you take a look at the our previous training on our YouTube channel. That was from December 13, 2023, definition of small business and the socioeconomic categories. And that training was conducted by Sophia Chow, our CMR. So in the absence of a size certification, the subcontract award must be counted as an other than small business award, meaning OTSB award. Next slide, please. Now let's go ahead and go into the format of the reps and certs. So the size certifications can be both written or electronic. So if you have a written self-certification, the form should include at minimum this information: the company name, the company information that goes with it, the subcontract number, the NAICS code, and the corresponding size standard. Okay, that is the NAICS code that best describes the service or item that is being procured. And then there should be a space for indicating whether the vendor identifies as a small business, SDB, hub zone, WOSB, WOSB, VOSB, and SDVOSB. The form should also include either the full text definitions or at minimum the FAR reference for these definitions. Next slide, please. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to the format. The typewritten self-certification should contain notification concerning penalties and remedies for misrepresentation of business status for the purpose of obtaining a subcontract, and that's referenced at 13 CFR 121.411. There should also be a space for the type name and signature of the authorized official and the date. And the signature must be on the same page containing the size status claimed by the concern. And that is specifically referenced in 13 CFR 121.411G. And the signature can be a digital one. So the written self-certification can be collected in electronic format, but this is not the same as the electronic reps and certs. Next slide, please. So a prime contractor may rely on the electronic reps and certs. So this is electronic, not the written, provided that the solicitation contains a clause in which the subcontractor verifies its size and socioeconomic representation, and that the certifications are current, accurate, and complete as of the date of the offer. And that is the 13 CFR site that addresses this requirement down below in the corner. So if there is no solicitation, then this certification should be on the subcontract. So what is the most common example of an electronic reps and certs? Next slide, please. I think most of you are familiar with this. It is the reliance on SAM as the electronic submission method. So in this case, in order to use this, the subcontractor must be registered in SAM, and then the subcontract must contain a clause or statement similar to FAR 52.204-8D, in which the subcontractor, once again, verifies size and social economic representations and certifications are current, accurate, and complete as of the date of the submission of the offer. Okay. So please note, however, that the prime contractor may not require the use of SAM for the purposes of representing size or social economic status in connection with the subcontract. So you as a prime contractor can certainly encourage, but you can't require. And again, that is the CFR reference at the corner, 13 CFR 125.3C. Next slide, please. So there are situations where the prime contractor doesn't rely on SAM, but it may still have an electronic reps inserts. So it's their own platform essentially. So this can be used provided as long as the subcontract contains a clause or statement similar to, once again, FAR 52.204-8D, and that it verifies the size and socioeconomic representations and certifications are current, accurate, and complete as of the date of the submission of the offer. In this particular case, the signature does not need to be on the same page as the size status, since we understand that there's always formatting issues and there may be other information on that electronic reps inserts. So the FAR reference, once again, is provided for you at FAR 52.219-9. Next slide, please. Please note that the timing of the reps inserts is very important, okay? For subcontracting purposes, a concern must qualify as small as of the date that it certifies that it is small for the subcontract. The applicable size standard is the one that is in effect at the time the concern self-certifies that it is small for the subcontract. The size, excuse me, tables are available, obviously, on the in the CFR, 13 CFR 121.201, as well as available on the SBA website at sba.gov. The contractor size, okay, applies for the life of the subcontract, including any options and extension. If the company is acquired, okay, and the company name stays the same, you can keep counting the company in the size and socioeconomic category it's self-certified. However, if the novation requires a change to the subcontract, or if a new subcontract is being used or created, then you need to treat this new subcontract and then apply the new size. Okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and repeat. The contractor size applies for the life of the subcontract. I know that this is a question that a lot of us CMRs get pretty frequently. And finally, I do want to say again that annual certification may still be collected, okay? And that's for the reason because it can assist with complying with good faith effort, right? Collecting annual certifications can still help you with establishing your goals for your subcontracting plans, shows that you are searching and considering new businesses, new small businesses, as well as the subsets. And then, of course, it also demonstrates that you're maintaining your small businesses on your vendor list. So definitely there is still value to collecting annual certifications. Again, just note that the annual certifications cannot help you meet the reps inserts requirement. Next slide, please. And this is another thing that questions that we seem to be getting a lot more recently. And this concerns validating certifications. Okay, so except for HubZone and SDVOSB, a prime contractor may rely on the socioeconomic self-certification of a subcontractor, provided the prime contractor does not have a reason to doubt the subcontractor's self-certification. 13 CFR 125.3B4. Now for HubZone, it's specifically required as stated under FAR 52.219-9 E4. It states that you need to confirm a subcontractor representing itself as a HubZone small business concern is certified by SBA as a HubZone small business by accessing SAM or DSBS. That's a dynamic small business search. Regarding the SDVOSBs, as of December 22nd, 2024, only SDVOSBs that are SBA certified or have a pending SDVOSB certification can be counted towards the SDVOSB subcontracting plan goal. Now, the pending list can be accessed by the link that was included on the SBA Second Wednesday training invites. If any of you have problems accessing that link or don't have access to that invite, please contact your CMR for assistance. So lastly, I want to state that DSBS is the best place to validate a firm's hub zone or SDVOSB status. Recently, I've also encountered a situation where a prime contractor has asked about the VOSB status, and that information is also available in DSBS. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and dive into the second major area. Okay, it's the if not, why not justification. Many of you will recognize some of the next slides because I gave this presentation on the if not, why not justification last year. So let's go ahead and dive into this one, the if not, why not requirement. It's actually a pretty lengthy FAR clause. Okay, now at 52.219-9D11, right, it states, records on each subcontract solicitation resulting in an award of more than the simplified acquisition threshold as defined in FAR 2.101 on the date of subcontract award indicating. So whether small business concerns were solicited, and if not, why not? Whether veteran-owned small businesses were solicited, and if not, why not? Whether STVOSBs were solicited, and if not, why not? Whether hub zones were solicited, and if not, why not? Whether SDBs were solicited, and if not, why not? Whether WOSB, women-owned small business, were solicited, and if not, why not? And finally, if applicable, the reason award was not made to the small business. So some of you may ask, well, what is the current SAT? The current SAT at this moment is $250,000. Next slide, please. The justification is extremely important because it affords maximum practicable opportunity to small businesses and small business subsets for each subcontract above the SAT. Okay, and again, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the socioeconomic categories, the 6 of them, and the definitions are at FAR 2.101. Next slide, please. When should you begin considering the if not, why not justification process? You should begin this process, okay? Again, the process before subcontract award for the following reasons, right? It allows the buyer to contemplate who to procure, solicit to get competitive offers, okay? It helps the buyers look beyond a company that they continually do business with, especially if it is a large business, and so you can consider including small business alternatives. It also allows you to consider each of the small business socioeconomic categories. And finally, it provides a justification, the rationale for the subcontract award strategy. Next slide, please. So you begin the process early on, excuse me, but it does have to be finalized by a certain date. Okay, the regulation under FAR 52.219-9D11 states, records on each subcontract solicitation resulting in an award of more than a simplified acquisition threshold as defined in FAR 2.101 on the date of the subcontract award. So that does mean that by subcontract award, this justification should have been finalized. Next slide. So what we have right here is a sample of an if not, why not worksheet. Many of you who are familiar with something called the SBLO handbook that was issued years and years ago had this type of sample. And so this sample worksheet here has, for example, what I mentioned earlier, requirement. It should have, a subcontract number. It should have, information regarding, who got the subcontract award. You've got the date. So here we have a few columns. We have the size categories, the 6 size categories, and the socioeconomic subsets. We have number of firms solicited. We have a column for the reasons not solicited, and then the reasons not selected. And so as you can see down below, there is a key there. So we've got some, reasons for, the columns to fill in for not solicited and then why not selected. So let's go ahead and take a look at that first one. So under the small business category, there were 2 small businesses that were solicited. And the reasons why they were not selected for award was you've got the keys for A and B. A, the company did not offer the lowest price. And then B, the company was found to not be qualified. So this is an example of a situation where a company was solicited for the category that they were solicited, but then not awarded. Now let's go down below to the women-owned small business. You can see that there were none that were solicited. And the reason why was because we've got number 5 right there, is because there were no known small businesses that were found. Okay, so this is an example of a worksheet that you can use. I do want to say that, make sure that if you're going to use something like this where you have a key, that you do have a field for the buyers, whoever is completing this form, to go ahead and allow them to input more description, or perhaps there might be another explanation that is not already captured by the key. Next slide, please. So there is no requirement in the regulations that you include the number of businesses. Okay, it just really depends on how the prime solicits and tracks these small businesses. It may be easier for some companies, maybe ones with individual plans as compared to commercial plans, or just the type of industry that you're involved in. Okay. But there are certainly some benefits to tracking the number of businesses selected. It can be useful to the SBLO and the buyers to get a better understanding of the small business pool of contractors. And then if the pool is small, the contractor, should go out and actively search for small businesses with necessary capabilities. Next slide, please. So obviously with anything, there's always there are pros and cons, right? And so the pros and benefits includes that ensures that the buyer addresses all the required areas, right? You're not leaving out, one of the socioeconomic categories, okay? You can use the key for the most common reasons for the business not being solicited, small businesses not being solicited, or did not receive award to allow to standardize the worksheet. When you have a key, it makes it sortable. And then also the SBLO and the purchasing staff can also better analyze the lack of subcontracting to the small businesses or the SB subsets. The matrix can also include a place for the individual to make notes regarding the type of market research. Where did they look? Who did they go to for this information? And then, of course, there are the cons and negatives. Buyers might see the matrix as something that they just have to complete rather than really thinking through the process and its purpose. The keys potentially can provide the buyer with excuses not to involve SBs because they know exactly what reasons, can be included to justify this. The buyers may place less effort and just stick with, status quo. And then finally, having the check boxes, it can lead to, less detailed response. Next slide, please. So let's talk about what are the good practices. Okay, so the justification worksheet should include the awarded subcontractor, the subcontract or purchase order number, the date, and a buyer's signature. The buyer should review the worksheet as early as possible before subcontract award. Considering the subcontract need, can the need be fulfilled by the small businesses and social economic groups? Reviewing vendor lists. Do you have qualified businesses already? And then doing the market research. Are there potential new vendors that can be added to the company's vendors list? Can the SBLO identify new sources? The SBLO should not be excluded from the process. The SBLO should have access to the justification worksheet. It allows the SBLO to become aware of the company's small business needs, to understand what each buyer procures and what type of small businesses they are searching for, and then to determine what can be posted on SBA subnet or on a company website to solicit small businesses or the SB subsets. Next slide, please. So here are some of the things that the SBA CMRs have seen from conducting SBCRs, the Subcontracting Program Compliance Reviews. We do see that a lot of primes don't use the matrix format. Again, that's fine. Most primes do not track the number of small businesses and subsets solicited. Again, that's also permissible. Many primes are non-compliant, though, with not having the justification. Okay, even though it's in the regs, it's in the subcontracting plan, we do still see that somehow that section seems to get glossed over. Many list a justification or provide a justification for the small business, but fail to address the small business subsets. And then finally, we do see that some of the justifications, the documentation of the justification, was not completed before the subcontract award date. So now let's go ahead. Next slide, please. Let's go ahead to the next major area, and that's the third one, the efforts to locate and assist small businesses. Next slide, please. So FAR 52.219-9D11, right? It talks about description of the types of records that need to be maintained. And as you can see from that list there, it seems pretty self-explanatory, right? It regards, records for trade associations, business development organizations, conferences, trade fairs, etc. Okay, but what should these records, really capture? The information that should be captured in these records, okay, whenever possible, should capture who was the sponsor, who held the event, who was the audience, the number of attendees, when and where was the event held? How did your organization participate? Did someone give a presentation or give training? Was there a flyer or an agenda that was given? And then also, was there a success story that came about attending that event or organizing that event, hosting that event? Was, excuse me, did a small business subcontractor perhaps later manage to, keep growing and became large later on? Did perhaps the small business subcontractor later became a federal government prime contractor? Perhaps your company was able to assist, with the company obtaining more certifications so that it can go ahead and qualify, for more categories. Whatever it may be, see if you can get a success story from these types of situations, because SBA will ask for them if we come for a subcontracting program compliance review. So let's go ahead to the next major category, major area, next slide. And that concerns the subcontracting plan flow down provision. Next slide, please. So the flow down provision states that FAR 52.219-9D9 requires all OTSB subcontractors, okay, that receive subcontracts in excess of the threshold of $750,000 or $1.5 million for construction to adopt a subcontracting plan that complies with the requirements of FAR 52.219-9. So the OTSB prime contractor is responsible for obtaining, approving, and monitoring the subcontracting plans of its OTSB subcontractors. There was also previous training given on this subject matter back in January 2023, and it was given by Sophia Chow. So if you ever have a chance, do go back and take a look or view that video. Next slide, please. So the first thing is obtaining the subcontracting plan, right? So you need to determine whether a subcontracting plan is required. Does the subcontract to the OTSB subcontractor exceed the threshold, right? If it doesn't exceed the threshold, then the plan is not required. Are there subcontracting possibilities? If there aren't any, then a subcontracting plan may not be required, okay? But you need to document all that. So did the OTSB subcontractor provide explanation for the lack of subcontracting opportunities? Make sure that you get that explanation from them, okay? Is there an explanation? Is the explanation reasonable? That is for you to determine. You may, in cases, if you don't think it's reasonable, maybe you want to go ahead and take a look at information in DSPS or other places, but it's for you to determine whether or not it's reasonable, okay? And so let's say after all that, you know, you do need to collect the subcontracting plan. Make sure you collect it and put it as part of the file. Next slide. So now that you've got the subcontracting plan, you've got to approve it, okay? But that first requires that you review the plan. Does the plan contain all 15 elements? Do the goals appear reasonable and reflect maximum practicable opportunity? So consider the contractor's rationale for the proposed goals. So, you know, if all those, you know, elements are there, if those goals appear reasonable, then you're going to go ahead and accept the subcontracting plan. And at that point, after you accept the plan, you need to make sure that you provide the necessary information to your first tier OTSB subcontractor, because they need information in order to go ahead and input their report information in ESRS to submit their ISRs. That information that you should be providing them includes the prime contract number, the your UEI, and then also the email address of your entity's contractor's official who is responsible for reviewing those ISRs. Next slide, please. So we've already approved the subcontracting plan. Now we've got to go into the monitoring of it, okay? So you as a prime contractor needs to ensure that your OTSB subcontractors with subcontracting plans agree to submit their reports, both the ISR and the SSR using ESRS. Okay, it requires that you as the prime contractor review the subcontractor's ISRs in ESRS and acknowledge receipt, meaning you accept or reject. Everything that you see what your contracting officer does for you, you need to go ahead and do for your OTSB subcontractor. You're going to go ahead and take a look whether or not the goals that are in those ISRs, are they accurate? Do they match the goals that are in the subcontracting plan that was provided by the OTSB subcontractor? And then are the goals being met? If not, did the subcontractor provide remarks in the in their ISR to explain any goal shortfalls and then provide a plan of action? And then did the subcontractor submit these reports on time? Next slide, please. Now, continuing on with the monitoring, you should be providing feedback to the subcontractor if the goals are not being achieved, and then notify them if they're failing to submit their reports. And then also reminding the subcontractor to submit the SSR to the agency. Okay, you as a prime contractor, unfortunately, will not be able to view your subcontractor's SSR submissions in ESRS. It's critical that you do remind your subcontractors to file these reports, specifically the SSR, is because the agencies get credit for the subcontracting dollars through these SSR filings. Next slide. So You're also going to require that your OTSB subcontractor with the subcontracting plan provides information to its small business its OTSB subcontractors with the subcontracting plan. Okay, so the same information that you give to them, they need to give for their entity to their sub. Okay, so essentially the process is the prime contractor will review the ISR of its first tier OTSB sub, and then the first tier OTSB sub will likewise review the reports of the second tier OTSB sub. And it goes on, it keeps going on until, the requirements are no longer there. Okay. So this continues, for all tiers. Next slide, please. So there may be situations where the flow down subcontracting plans are not required. Okay. The subcontracting plans are not required from subcontractors when the subcontract is for a commercial item or a commercial component and the prime contract contains these clauses, 52.212-5 or 52.244-6. Okay, again, these are the clauses that appear on the prime contract. For contractors holding a commercial plan, the contractors are not required to have to flow down for the subcontracting plan requirements to their OTSB subcontractors, okay? Regardless if the subcontracting is for a commercial item, so long as the FAR clause 52.212-5 is on the prime contract. Please note, however, that the FAR clause 52.219-8 is always required. Next slide, please. So we're going to go into the fourth area, which concerns the summary subcontract report. Next slide, please. So FAR clause 19 FAR 19.704A10, okay, states the contractor will submit the ISR and the SSR using the ESRS following the instructions in ESRS. Okay, notice that is in bold. You follow the instructions in ESRS. The reason why I have this slide titled Summary Subcontract Report is that even though this FAR, this regulation discusses both the ISR and the SSR, most of the problems with the record keeping really does pertain specifically to the SSR. And the reason is because the ESRS has a requirement for the CEO for the completion of the SSR. So specifically, all of you who are familiar with the SSR, you see that under items 13 and 14 of the SSR talks about the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. Okay, so ESRS specifically states that this is the full name and title of the CEO. Okay. If you do not use the title CEO, this is the most senior executive in your organization. And so no delegation of authority is accepted. Okay, so it requires the name, title, and date, and all of that is required under item 13 of the SSR. Then you've got the CEO approval, okay, under number 14. So what does all of this say? Okay, it's basically the self-certification that the individual who's listed as the CEO on this report will sign and keep a paper printout of this report and keep it on file. Okay, there is a requirement for the CEO. Next slide, please. So SBA recognizing that, this is a requirement that seems, that poses problems for many of our contractors, our prime contractors. And so back in December 19, 2024, there was a proposed rule, okay? And that proposed rule was to, allow for the increased number of individuals who may sign those SSRs, okay? So instead of just the CEO, right, only the CEO, it allows for a president or equivalent, a vice president, general manager, or another senior executive for government procurement. Okay, this eases the process for the contractors because it allows for signatures from individuals who have knowledge of the content and then who are also readily available to sign these reports in lieu of the CEO. This particular proposed reg affects 13 CFR 125.3. Please keep in mind, however, that this is just a proposed rule. So until this rule becomes final, the requirement for the CEO, to be identified and for the CEO to keep a signed copy of the SSR is still required. Next slide, please. And so this last slide covers the last major area, the fifth and final one. It concerns the Small Business Liaison Officer. Next slide, please. So generally, the official that administers the subcontracting plan, you may have heard the term OASP, also known as could be the SBLO, is the individual who's responsible for carrying out the elements of the subcontracting plan. This individual is generally identified in the subcontracting plan. This individual provides small businesses with maximum practicable opportunity to participate as small businesses. The SBLO promotes the management support, company involvement, supplier integration, development of pre-award and then achievement post-award of the goals, and ensures adherence to the regulations and reporting requirements in ESRS. And so you can also go back and review some of the past trainings, which covers the role of the SBLO. Back in September 2022, we had a training session for creating a robust subcontracting program. And then more recently, the SBLO 101 training back in January 2025, which was conducted by Christopher Sau. Both of those trainings discussed the role of the SBLO. So if the SBLO is identified on the subcontracting plan, and if that SBLO is no longer with the company or that SBLO, position has changed, then please, notify your contracting officer and then keep a copy of this notification. This requirement, is not in the regs, but it does show diligence, and it does allow for, the contracting officer and the SBA, should we have questions regarding your subcontracting plan or regarding your goals or accomplishments, it tells us who we can go ahead and reach to get those questions answered. So next slide, please. This is our, final slide, just that we have an SBA email box, and that concludes, my part of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have many questions. So and we still have 10 minutes to go. So first,
and all of you, I apologize for my voice is sort of giving out because I'm getting over a cold. So sorry for clearing my throat at times.
No, that's fine. Okay. Please confirm if return, serve, and rep and serve include in the solicitation package is an acceptable alternative when a business concern is not registered in SAM for certification of the size.
Okay, so now are you talking? Okay, I guess I'm trying to think out. So the solicitation package,
they include the return cert
may include a blank, reps and certs, right, for the completion, by the subcontractor. So I would say, yes, that is typical and that is a good practice. That, they need to get at some point. So if you have a solicitation, you would include it. And, when there's a solicitation, then the subcontractor, when they go ahead and respond to that solicitation, providing their offer, that's when they go ahead and have that completed form submitted back to the prime contractor. The prime contractor does not need to be, registered in SAM, the subcontractor. But we do see in most cases that, the subs, are registered in SAM, but it's not a requirement, not if you have the written reps and certs.
Okay, so the next one, regarding if not, why not? How do you justify why not when you need to keep the existing staffing missed when bidding on a recompete?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part of that question? That
Okay, I would
question
think
again?
it's bidding on a recompete contract. So it means they're going to repeat on a contract. So they're probably going to using the same staffing again. And so then how you're going to justify it? If not, why not? Because you are not going to using other. I mean, that's how I would interpret, because it's saying regarding if not, why not? How did you justify why not when you need to keep the existing staffing miss when bidding on a repeat contract?
I mean, that could potentially be your justification if somehow you need to continue with the same stuff. Now, please note that the reasons that are there, those are not the only acceptable reasons. Okay, so there might be situations where, yes, maybe you have to continue with certain staffing for continuity or the expertise, you know. So please note that, again, there could be other explanations that are perfectly acceptable. Okay, it will be on a case-by-case basis in many situations.
Next question, same issue for the if not, why not? So they ask that if they post an opportunity on, I don't think it's DSBS, it's a subnet. Okay, they post an
Okay.
opportunity on the subnet, and it is open to anyone, right? So how he asks, how did you compete the phone? And similarly, you may solicit a specific business by inviting them to submit a proposal, and or you maybe open it up to large and to any broad other categories. So how did you compete the form for this case? Well, first of all, if they post their opportunity in the subnet, so how should they do it? Or if they invite certain type of company to bid on the job, how do they feel in the if not, why not?
Again, this is just a sample worksheet, right? You know, there may be situations where, um, you post in different sites or, you get, yeah, in different sites. I mean, I know that, some firms do post a subnet and a lot don't. Okay, though SBA does encourage that, if you have subcontracting opportunities, try to post them in subnet. And the reason why SBA encourages that is because it's specifically referenced in the regs. And so this could be another way for you to demonstrate good faith efforts. Okay. Um, you know, I think that, I don't know, does that answer the question, Sophia?
Uh,
I think that you can just go ahead and explain that you solicited and you posted the solicitation in subnet,
yes,
and
I would agree.
that explanation alone shows that you did solicit it somewhere, right? It doesn't say that you have to post, your solicitation everywhere, but if you did post it maybe on your own company website, we do see that, right? Because we get a lot of small businesses, and when they contact us, one of the first things we tell them, check with the company, the vendor's website, see if they have any, work that's being posted. Okay, so I would recommend post it on your own website and then go ahead and post it on subnet. And another area that I do tell a lot of prime contractors, what they could do is also they may want to go ahead and contact their local Apex accelerator. You know, tell the Apex that you have this subcontracting opportunity. See if they can go ahead and help you share the information or post it on their page somewhere. I found that just Apex has been very, very helpful. So I do encourage that to be another source.
Okay, so the next one is uh, okay. Since the SDVO, SBS is, wow, this is too long. Okay, I'm going to skip. All right, so, okay, is a subcontracting plan flow down required only if there is a subcontract in place? Or is it also required from supplier we use that whose spend is over $750,000?
Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand that first part about the
Is
subcontractor in
subcontracting flow
place.
down required only, yeah, when there is a subcontract in place? Uh, yes, I mean, without the subcontract, why are you throwing down the subcontracting plan requirement to a subcontractor? So of course there have to be a subcontract in place. Uh, is it also
Okay.
required from supplier we use that whose spend is over? It really depends on whatever the subcontract that you award to the subcontractor, this other than small business subcontractor. If the subcontract value is over
$50,000.
$750,000, yes, then you have to throw down the subcontracting plan requirement to this other than small business subcontractor. All right, next question.
And let me just go ahead and add to that too. And then remember, is it a commercial item? Are you a commercial plan holder?
Yes.
That's the other part.
Okay. Okay, so regarding throwdown, what if your subcontract, okay, you subcontract to a federal other than small business prime, it's over the threshold and it do not ask for a, you tried, oh, okay, so I understand the question. Someone as the prime and is a contract to there's a contractor, and that's a contract is other than small business. However, this prime contractor did not ask for a subcontracting plan from this subcontractor. So the subcontractor asks, what should I do? Should I still go ahead and submit the subcontracting plan to this prime contractor?
Well, clearly the prime contractor is not doing it correctly, right?
Yes.
I would
I would
say
think for your own sake, you should submit the subcontracting plan just to cover
give one.
yourself. Right.
Give one to the prime.
Yes. Uh, is the subcontracting plan monitoring required if the large business is a vendor providing a service over the subcontracting threshold under a tax order of the prime contract? Is the subcontracting plan monitoring required? Okay, well, here's the thing. The subcontracting plan will be applicable only on the contract level, not on the tax order
Task order.
level if it's from the IDIQ contract. So you only have one subcontracting plan. And so if your company issue a tax order, so then you have to go back to look at that. Well, is that tax order is come from the IDIQ contract or is come from a blanket agreement? So if it is from the blanket agreement, that agreement is not a subcontract. The tax order is the subcontract. So then you have to monitor at the tax order level. However, if the tax order is issued from IDIQ contract, then the IDIQ contract is the contract. Then you have to monitor on the IDIQ contract.
So let me go ahead and expand on that part too, because that type of situation also applies if you have the IDIQ contract to the if not, why not justification. Okay. So let's say that you have an IDIQ type of contract, right? That is when you would go ahead and collect the if not, why not too, okay? It's not at the individual task order, okay? It is at the base contract level, the IDIQ. You can collect that if not, why not at that time. So I just want to go ahead and clarify that also.
Yeah, thank you. And last question. We no longer have a centralized procurement space. Can by CEO electronically?
I don't understand that question.
Well,
Do
they
you,
don't have, I
Sophia?
don't know what is the centralized procurement
Yeah, I'm
space, but
sorry.
anyhow, just the final part, can SSR be signed by the CEO electronically? I would say
So,
yes.
yes,
I
we
mean,
do
you
accept
print out,
electronic signatures.
yes. Okay, so we still have several questions that we didn't have time. We don't have time to get through it. And so if you still want to ask those questions, please send them in to your concerned CMRs. And we appreciate you attend today's training. And we're looking forward to see you in June. I think it's June 12th. See you then. Bye.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, please end the live section.